If we are more advanced, productive, and efficient than we have ever been at any point in history, why is it still so mentally exhausting to get through the workday? Well, today I'm hoping to answer that question. But first, I'm Hannah Geft, the creator behind Hannah Gets Hired, and this is Good Job, part newsletter, part interview series, and 100% dedicated to helping you build a happier career. Today, I am at the Adobe World headquarters in San Jose, California, for a conversation with Toni Vanwinkle, Adobe's VP of Digital Employee Experience and co-chair of AI. That is a big title, but she's essentially the person in charge of how the tech, systems, and processes all fit together so that more than 30,000 employees worldwide work more efficiently, more impactfully, and with fewer headaches. Which is great for me because I showed up with no shortage of questions about how work works, how the digital experiences that we use every day affect how motivated or miserable work makes us feel. Toni has a star-studded resume. She was named a Digital Workplace Leader of the Year, one of Women We Admire's top 50 women leaders of San Francisco, and she received the CIO 100 award. And to top it all off, this badass even has a black belt in Taekwondo. We are in store for a great conversation about topics that don't usually get addressed in the classic career advice convos, so let's get into it. Toni, it is so good to be here today at Adobe. I am very excited for this conversation. You've got a beautiful office space here.
Me too.
You have an incredibly unique role at Adobe. You are the VP of Digital Employee Experience, which I am sure a lot of people hear and think, what exactly does that mean? Can you walk us through one of your favorite projects at Adobe and really how your work and your team's work shows up in that day-to-day employee experience?
Absolutely. Well, first I'll frame like what I do here because it is kind of a unique role, and I had the privilege of creating it, which is kind of cool. I know you talk about careers all the time, and so it's nice to kind of write your own story in terms of what the problem space is in an organization. And for us, we wanted to create a differentiated experience for our employees. And that's not only, the digital piece of that experience, but it includes our processes, the spaces that you're in, which you've gotten an opportunity to see today. It's like, being a rock star here. But essentially, my job is to help people do their best work throughout their journey here. So just think about at the time that we're trying to attract you here as an employee to the time that you become an alumni, because you just might come back, you never know, and all the work you do in the middle. So your onboarding processes, your offboarding processes, the way that you actually get your work done. And so I have things like collaboration, all of your endpoint technology, all of your workflows. And then I also had an opportunity to step in as the co-chair of AI at Adobe.
Yeah.
And that's really about transforming the way that we work with this new technology.
Amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
pretty
sounds like that your role, especially compared to a lot of other roles that exist in corporate, like you really have that day-to-day impact on how employees sit down at their computer and experience their day.
Absolutely.
And, I don't think it's any secret that for a lot of people, work today feels really exhausting. Like people get to the end of their day and they're quite drained. I came across a stat in my research that I found a little mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Today's knowledge workers are interrupted every 2 minutes by emails, pings, and meetings, and some studies estimate they toggle between apps nearly 1,200 times a day. There's this like fragmentation that happens in this digitally connected world that leave people so mentally exhausted by the time they get to the actual meaningful parts of their job. And you've got this incredibly unique vantage point about how work works. So for someone who's feeling overwhelmed at work, what are the first systems or processes that they should question or try to redesign?
Yeah. So digital exhaustion is real.
Yeah.
And many of the capabilities that my team deploys to the organization are in front of people's faces every single day. You mentioned meetings or the way that we connect with each other and collaborate. So I tell people to ask yourself 3 questions about redesigning work. 1, do you even need to do that task anymore? And so a lot of times we kind of do tasks that have been kind of the old way of doing things.
Yeah.
So if you're going to reimagine work, ask yourself that first question. Do I need to do this task anymore? And then the second thing is, can I automate this task? can I just like fully automate it? Let's put that on, a script, or let's use AI, maybe an agent or something to automate it. And then how can I augment? Meaning, how do I use like a conversational interface to receive information or to create new content? And so you had asked me before some of the exciting projects that I do here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I get to do, which I'm super excited about, is run an innovation team and a customer zero team. And what that means is we get to use our own products. So one of the products that we run on my team and supply to Adobe employees is Acrobat and Acrobat Studio. In Acrobat Studio, there are a number of new features, particularly in PDF spaces, and it allows us to bring information together into a single place. We always talk about kind of the fragmentation of information across the enterprise. So how do we keep people in the flow of work? And what I love about PDF spaces is we're able to keep people in that flow so that they can bring the information together and generate new content. So some of the new features within the tool is being able to generate like a presentation, being able to do things like create podcasts. I know that this is something that you probably saw in a demo earlier.
Yeah,
So,
and
super fun
I
stuff.
got my hands on
Yeah.
Adobe Acrobat and that PDF Studio earlier, and it's
Yeah.
this powerful knowledge base that, a lot of times we see tech upgrades and it's an improvement on a workflow that already exists. But
Yeah.
in looking at this, it's like this creation of a new workflow and a new way to work where you can take that cognitive load out and store it in a central location and interact in a way where you can draw on sources of information that might be really hard to find otherwise. So I am beyond excited to go get my hands on it and start using it across everything. And congrats on the launch.
Yeah, thank you. Bringing creativity and productivity together.
We love it. I am a big believer that our careers are the sum of the parts of our experience at work day to day. And there is this conversation circulating online right now in response to how people are feeling just so drained in that experience. It's being dubbed the Great Millennial Career Crisis. And it refers to the disillusionment and burnout and kind of reaching this point in their careers where they're not as fulfilled as they would want to be. And I'm curious from your perspective, how much of a role do you see these digital processes and systems playing in our overall career fulfillment and that long-term career fulfillment? And how can people make those cumulative days less draining?
Yeah, such a great question. And so I do believe that the digital tools have an impact on how people feel about their work. The reason why is that technology is an enabler. So, for example, we own and deploy tools for collaboration. If you have a meeting that's disrupted, I've just impacted your ability to make kind of the outcomes and the impact that you want to make.
Yeah.
And so if it's fragmented, if we talk about the load of digital exhaustion, if you can't actually make the impact that you want to make, then this is the reason why people are saying, hey, I'm not able to show up the way that I need to show up. I'll give you an example here at Adobe. If you're trying to, build the next best feature for a product, if I'm not able to give you the data, information, or help you with your workflow, like that creative expression is basically lost in the moment. So if I cause friction, or the tools in this case, cause friction, then we've lost your creative flow. So this is what causes what I believe this extra load of my ability to accomplish my task. The other thing I would say is that there are so many tools out there. So how do you get to a place where you start to collapse and bring things together into an ecosystem that can really serve you? We all have our toolkits, even at home, when we're trying to build something.
Yeah.
At work, whether that is selling a product, building a product, or communicating a new idea, you need to have those things at your fingertips so that you can create in the moments that you want to create. not the moments that I want to create.
Yeah. And there's a big onus on the employer to provide those tools and provide the ecosystem that works really collaboratively.
Yeah, I would say that as particularly the up and coming generation is if we have antiquated tools, and for example, if AI is not embedded in those tools, then we're kind of competing against other employers that provide better technologies. And so I keep that in mind. Am I providing the latest and greatest tools that are going to help people really do their best work here?
Yes, and I'm glad you bring up AI because it's impossible to have a conversation about the texture of work, is what I like to call it, without talking about AI. There's a bit of an optimism gap between the big productivity gains that leaders are expecting and advocating for from AI and the reality experienced by a lot of employees using it. According to an Upwork study, 77% of employees say that AI has only increased their workload, and 40% feel like the expectations to use it are too high. Why do you think that AI isn't really saving people time yet, and what do you see has to change in order for that to happen?
Yeah. There's three things that I think about. First thing I think about is our proficiency and our understanding of what these tools are and what they are not. And once we develop our proficiency with the tools, they're going to work better for us and with us. And so a lot of times we have this gap between, what we're sold and what they can actually do. So understanding the tool and having an understanding of what they are. So what is an LLM? What is an agent? What is an agentic workflow? I think the other thing is moving work from just me to we.
Yes.
And what that means is that a lot of us are kind of like, oh, I can take notes in a meeting. Well, that's awesome. But what about that report I need to generate? And so if we start to move it to the we, then we're putting it into a workflow. And workflows are the things that create outcomes.
Yeah.
And once you start to see that, oh my goodness, I was able to create content or a marketing campaign quickly and have an impact on the audience that I was trying to create that for. Now we're starting to talk about outcomes. I think the other thing is we need to measure things differently. And so we've been measuring productivity at the eye level, like, hey, it saved me like 23 hours and so on and so forth. I think we need to measure the impact in AI against our business objectives. So, for example, if I want to accelerate my time to market for a product, let's measure that. And that's going to be a much more enduring impact to the business. And guess what? It's going to be an impact to your career and the goals that you have basically committed to.
Totally. And I know in my own experience using AI, like so much of the magic comes from having like all the parts of my business embedded into it and having that like knowledge base that can talk to each other rather than just like using it for a single task, which may, in a sense, take longer to give it an input and then workshop the output. But that ecosystem of across teams in an organization or even just the knowledge existing in one place and then using AI to facilitate that is so powerful. And, you bring up productivity. I think when we talk about AI, the conversation almost always focuses on productivity. The goal is to try and get more output, do so faster and cheaper. I know for many people, what I've heard is that there's this sense that relying so heavily on AI for productivity might strip the color out of the work that they do. And people will just be left managing teams of robots. In a world where AI is truly improving how we work, and it's not just doing all of our thinking for us, how could a workday feel differently than it does today?
This is an interesting topic to me because I think about studying how people are trying to use AI. And you've heard the term like human in the loop and so on and so forth. I think this is very important. We cannot just, like go to our LLMs, go to our chat and say, hey, create the book report for me for school, and then just leave it at that. The human brilliance and human ingenuity is so core to this. So I think of when I'm working with a conversational interface as AI as my thought partner and possibly AI as my coach. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit different than, I'm just going to give it to the machine. Now, I did tell you about the three things that I thought people should think about is what are the things I don't need to do anymore? What can I automate? And then what are those things that I can augment my workflow with? And so if I'm able to fully offload a particular, task of drudgery,
Yeah.
then I don't have to do that anymore. And if I'm able to augment my strategies with a thought partner, this is what I hope happens, is that we have the capacity to do things that matter more to our lives. We have the capacity to be creative. We have the capacity. I've been using the word recess a lot. We have I used to love recess when I was in grade school. And the reason why we had those breaks is so that we can refocus with more intention. And so I'm hoping that we bring human ingenuity more to the forefront with this kind of technology than having the technology take it away.
When I think about using AI, that's what I've found it allows me to do, especially as somebody who works, I've got a small, scrappy team, but a lot of what I do is just me, and it does allow me to think so much bigger and get more put out into the world. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. Like, I wouldn't have been able to get this far without a lot of the power of tools like that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we've gotten to have this conversation. Like I said, I'm such a huge believer that your experience in your career is largely dictated by how your work feels every day. And work is obviously changing. We don't know yet where everything's going to land. But I'm curious, when you look ahead, say like 5 to 10 years from now, what changes in the way that people work feel inevitable? And what do you think is a little overhyped?
Yeah. And so a couple of thoughts come to my mind here. Is like, I love this quote that's out there that today's AI is like the worst AI you'll ever see. And so I do expect that AI, agentic workflows, and automation are just going to be more and more a part of our workflow. And so don't get me wrong, like that is very useful. And it increases outcomes, productivities, output all over. What I would expect is that people will start to manage fleets of agents, and you're not going to manage those agents like you manage people. Okay. And so what I would say is for now, learn and play with these tools so that you're ahead of the curve. And so my prediction, 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years out, is much more automation, much more creating our talents for discernment of quality of outputs, and hopefully much more time for us to create.
Yeah, I love that. I am all for more time to create, and that is the perfect place to stop. Toni, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you.